Well, good evening, friends. Father Frank Pavone here, National Director of Priests for Life. I have a number of things to talk with you about tonight. Some really great news about the continuing to make the courts great again, and some things to think about regarding the Democrat candidates for president. But first, let's go to my book, Pro-Life Reflections for Every Day. And on May the 21st, we have Romans 2:15. The requirements of the law are inscribed in their hearts, and their own conscience will also bear witness for them. Reflection. Since the early 90s, over 2/3 of the freestanding abortion facilities in the United States have closed. Abortionists admit that one of the key reasons is that fewer doctors are willing to do abortions. Despite all their money and influence, the abortion advocates have not succeeded in removing the stigma from abortion. Let us pray. Thank you, Father, for writing your law in our hearts. May it strengthen us all in right conduct. Amen. Pro-Life Reflections for Everyday.com is where you can get this book. Well, brothers and sisters, first of all, let me mention to you that our pastoral associate, Alveda King, evangelist Alveda King, together with Janet Morana, our executive director, are on their way. In fact, they've by now landed in Jamaica. And the reason that they are there for the next few days is to work very hard to stop the spread of abortion there in that country, because there are some there who want abortion to be expanded. Certainly Planned Parenthood and the International Abortion Lobby are always pressuring more and more countries to get it expanded. And so Priests for Life was approached, I was approached by some of the key leaders in Jamaica to come down there and help, to speak to the clergy, to speak to the general public, to speak to members of government. And Janet and Alveda will be carrying out that task over the next few days. They're also bringing the movie Unplanned together with our friend Mike Manhart, who's one of the co-producers and with whom we have been working a lot in regard to this film. And we know that that'll have a great impact as well. They asked me to come down there too, but tomorrow I have an event in New York City together with the Holy See Mission to the United Nations. Priests for Life is a registered non-governmental organization at the United Nations. We're pushing hard for the rights of the unborn there as well on the international level. And so every year they have a special event where they bring together the leaders of that effort, and we'll be there. Tomorrow night we'll be talking with you more separately about that. Well, let me give you some great news, and then let me give you some news about some of the presidential candidates. The great news is, thanks again to the leadership of President Trump and the Republican senators in the United States Senate, we have another judge today, another strong, conservative, pro-life judge on the bench in the most liberal, wacky circuit in the United States, the Ninth Circuit out on the West Coast. That is changing. The number of Democrat-appointed judges on that court is being approached more and more by the number of Republican-appointed judges. This is the president's he's got several on there already that he appointed. One just last week, Judge Kenneth Lee, that we reported about. And today, Judge Daniel Collins, appointed to and confirmed by the U.S. Senate to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Those of you who follow these matters, you know when you hear the term the Ninth Circuit, all kinds of outlandish decisions come out from that court. But now we have President Trump placing several solid judges on that court. And the good news doesn't end there. Tomorrow morning, yet another of President Trump's nominees for that same court will have a hearing in the Senate Judiciary Committee. This is absolutely fabulous and fantastic news. Do we realize, brothers and sisters, what's happening here? How did abortion come about in this country? Was it because there was an election? Was there a vote? Were you asked where you stand on it? Were your parents or your grandparents asked where they stood on this? Did our elected representatives come together and decide to legalize abortion? It was through the courts that this policy, which the American people have never agreed upon, was imposed on us. And the laws put in place by the duly elected representatives of the people throughout all 50 states were wiped off the books in one day when Roe v. Wade was handed down in January of 1973, and that was through a court edict. And how many times has Roe versus Wade and all the other violent policies that go along with it, you can't even call them laws, because they're not laws, they're acts of violence. You can't even call them court decisions because they're not court decisions. They're acts of violence that have perpetuated this Holocaust of the unborn. How have these court decisions come down upon us? If you have wrong court decisions, it's because you have the wrong judges on the courts. And if you want the right kinds of court decisions, you have to have the right kinds of judges. And to get the right kinds of judges, you have to elect the right kinds of presidents, because they're the ones that choose the judges for the federal courts. And if you want the good judges that good presidents choose for the federal courts, you've got to elect the right senators who are going to confirm those judges and who are going, furthermore, to stand firm against the tactics of the other side, who do not want any of these good, solid, conservative, pro-life judges to be on the courts. So Cecilia, bravo. We say bravo to President Trump and to the Republican Senate for passing the kinds of measures and appointing the kinds of judges that are going to defend your rights. Your rights. They're going to defend your rights, brothers and sisters. The Democrats are going to take them away. They're going to crush them. They're going to ban them. They're going to bury them. But we've got something fantastic going on here. Because I need you to understand, this, first of all, is the 108th judge that President Trump has placed on the federal courts. The 108th. He's got two fantastic Supreme Court justices. This today was the 41st of the circuit court judges that he has placed. That's the level right below the Supreme Court. He placed another 65 judges on the district court level of the federal courts. And you have to understand what's happening here. These are lifetime appointments, okay? So the courts are moving in the right direction. But there's a reason why the effort to put these judges on the courts is so successful. And it's not only because of the kinds of people the president is choosing, it's also because of the courage of the Republican leaders in the Senate. Senator Mitch McConnell from Kentucky is leading the majority in the Senate, and he has taken a very, very strong stand and made the confirmation of judges a very top priority for this Senate. But also in the Judiciary Committee in the last Congress, headed up by Republican Senator Charles Grassley, and in this one by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, they have taken courageous steps to make sure that the Democrats are not unduly delaying or sabotaging these nominations. And one of the ways that they are doing this is by looking at the qualifications of the judge and not putting up with partisan political tactics and tricks. Now, one of the things that has been a tradition in the Senate is that when a judge is considered by the Judiciary Committee, and that committee has to take the first look, if you will, at the judge, after, of course, the president has done so and has nominated him or her, the senators from the home state, where the judge is going to be, where the court is going to be to which the judge is being placed, have the opportunity to express their approval or disapproval. And this has been called the tradition of the blue slip. In other words, in this case, we're talking about California, okay? This judge today, Daniel Collins, serving in California, he'll be appointed, he is now seated as of today on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So the two senators from California can weigh in a particular way and say either yay or nay. And if they approve, if they don't have any objection as the home state senators, they issue what's called a blue slip, and they say, okay, it's all right with us. Now, remember, the judges get confirmed by a majority vote. First, the majority of the committee itself, the Judiciary Committee, and then it goes to the whole Senate for a vote. That was held today, and the Senate has to approve these judges also by a majority. So no one particular senator or another has a veto power, but under certain, well, I shouldn't say under certain cases, really up until now, the practice has been that if the home state senator doesn't give the blue slip, that nomination doesn't go anywhere, especially if both of them don't give the blue slip. Well, guess what? Both for the judge last week, Kenneth Lee, who was confirmed on the Ninth Circuit, and for Daniel Collins, who was confirmed today, neither of the California U.S. senators gave their blue slip. Neither one of them gave their approval. Well, think about who they are. Senator Dianne Feinstein, Senator Kamala Harris. These two women, they don't want President Trump's judges on the court. And so they did not approve of these judges. Guess what the Senate Judiciary Committee said? Thank you very much for your input. We have a majority of senators in favor of this judge. We are moving forward. This judge is qualified, and we're going to put him on the court. And so they did. So they did. The blue slip is not a law. It's not in the Constitution. It's just been a Senate tradition up until this year. I want you to understand something. Up until this year, this has not happened. That both of the home state senators refused to give their blue slips, and yet the judge still got confirmed on the court. This has not happened. The courageous leadership of the current Republican Senate is clearly in evidence here for your good and mine and the good of the church. Because again, where's abortion coming from? It's coming from elections? Are we referenda all over the country? Are we voting for abortion on demand? Or is it being imposed on us by the courts? Where are attacks on religious freedom coming from? Where's the redefinition of marriage coming from? Brothers and sisters, the radical policies that the left constantly wants to impose on you, on me, on our schools, on our children and grandchildren, on our churches and pastors are coming through liberal judges on the courts. After 8 years of President George W. Bush in the White House, thanks to all the judges he got to appoint, most of the federal circuit courts had a majority of judges on them nominated by Republican presidents. And that means their decisions tend to be more pro-life, pro-family, pro-faith, pro-religious liberty. After 8 years of President Obama and all the judges he got to put in place, the situation was reversed. Most of the circuit courts were dominated by Democrat-appointed judges. Now, President Trump is moving it back in the other direction with great speed, in fact, at record speed. Despite all the delays and obstruction tactics of the Democrats, he has managed to place, again, as of today, 108 judges on the federal courts. He's already flipped the Third Circuit from a dominance of Democrat-appointed judges to dominance of Republican-appointed judges, and he's not slowing down, and neither is the Republican Senate. Many of you, did you not, many of you voted in the last 2 elections with a motivation about the courts. In fact, most of the people who elected President Trump had that motivation. I certainly did as well. Knowing the role that the president has and the philosophy that he has, knowing the role that the senators have, and in deciding who's going to be on the courts, this motivated us in the elections. And so I want to speak clearly here about the fact that your vote is paying off. It is paying off in a very big way. We should rejoice in that. We're going to continue to keep you informed of the progress on the federal courts, and you should reach out and thank your senators and ask them. Contact your senators, ask them if they're voting for the president's well-qualified nominees for the court. Ask them and thank them for doing so if in fact they are. Well, let's turn to something else here, and this was in the title of my broadcast here tonight. Joe Biden. My, oh my. Let me ask you a question here. How in the world can anyone in this country even think for a moment? Now, I want you all to mark my words and listen to them very carefully here. How can anyone in this country for 1 minute even consider voting for a party, voting for a group of people who have made it crystal clear that they are avid supporters of a Holocaust that is going on right now? I want to know the answer to that question, because you know what? Nobody has been able to give an answer to that question. And I think we've got a situation here in this country where a lot of Democrats are in power simply because nobody is even asking this question. This has absolutely got to stop. How can we even consider, you know what's really crazy, what's going on right now, is that you've got some 24 men and women in the Democrat presidential race, 24 men and women contending for the nomination of their party to be president. And people are actually arguing back and forth about one being better than the other. We're taking polls about who's more favored, this one, that one, the other one. Who's in the double digits, who's in the single digits, how are they distinguishing themselves from one another? Why would you even consider any of them when each and every one of them is avidly supporting a Holocaust? Don't come to me and talk about their ideas about health care, their ideas about education, their ideas about immigration. Don't even start talking about these things, brothers and sisters. They're coming to you and they're saying they're in favor of killing babies and having you and me pay for it. Have we lost our minds? Have we lost our souls? That we even think for 1 minute of supporting any of these people? See, this is the strange thing about this. We can get distracted by all the new people coming for, hey, I'm going to throw my hat into the ring. Oh, I'm going to run for president too. And this senator over here, and this governor over there, and this mayor over here, and this who knows who he is, nobody over here. But why are we even wasting time considering any of them? This is a party, the Democrat Party, that has staked its claim solidly on the ground of abortion on demand. Now don't start telling me, oh my goodness, this is just one issue, this is just one issue. What in the world are we talking about? This is just one issue. The killing of babies? Oh, I'm in favor of chopping little babies apart, but don't worry about that. I have a great health care plan. Think about what we're saying. Oh, I'm in favor of letting babies die on a table after they're born. I'm not interested in having them protected by the law. But oh, don't worry about that. Don't get distracted about that. That's just one issue. Listen to my education plan. Have we lost our minds? Have we lost our minds? I'm asking you. What is the explanation for this? I'm serious. What is... Can someone give me the explanation? How is it that we're at a time right now where we're actually even giving a half a moment's consideration that someone might be president of this country who can't even muster the conscience, can't even muster the insight that to kill a baby is barbaric. It's a lack of human conscience. It's a total lack of human decency. And still people are going to even consider this? There is something about this, my friends, that should make us, we should be pulling our hair out, shouting from the rooftops. This is absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. Well, Joe Biden comes along, and the other day, didn't get much attention, but today it came out on a video. I'm going to play this video for you, where, surprise, surprise, he moved to the left. He contradicted 40 years of his position about, he's Democrat, so he's in line with the party platform about being pro-abortion. But, for a long time he was saying, well, yeah, it's one thing if somebody is allowed to have an abortion, but that doesn't mean I or you need to pay for it. Well, now he says you and I should be paying for it. See, the Democrat Party platform has gotten more and more extreme on the question of abortion and on a lot of other questions. And in the 2016 version of the platform, they added a line that they are against the Hyde Amendment. Now, I knew Congressman Henry Hyde. And shortly after Roe v. Wade, which came down in 1973, legalizing abortion, a lot of the debates that immediately ensued were the debates in regard to the funding of abortion. It's one thing it's one question to say, should the state legalize abortion? And Roe v. Wade answered that question. So right away then the question comes up, well then, should the state pay for what it just legalized? And the courts have consistently said, no, the state doesn't have to pay for what it legalizes. There's no obligation on the part of the federal government or the state government to pay for abortion. And in fact, thanks to Henry Hyde, what was introduced into the law was the Hyde Amendment. Now that protects a lot of federal money from paying for abortion. And it is estimated that it has saved over 2 million lives. This particular policy has saved over 2 million lives by protecting our taxpayer dollars from going to the killing of babies. The killing of babies, brothers and sisters. The killing of babies. The Democrat Party platform officially says we need to do away with the Hyde Amendment. In other words, let your tax dollars and mine pay for other people's abortions. And isn't this ironic? Because the pro-abortion people, and many of those that are running for president, will say, oh, well, hey, if you don't like abortion, don't have one. But you got to pay for it. They have such an offensive, disgusting, self-contradictory position that it isn't funny. Oh, if you don't like abortion, don't have one. Let the rest of us make our own choices. So you're going to make your own choices. Pay your own bills. But no, their position is, hey, if you don't like abortion, don't have one, and you can speak out about it, and you can even try to persuade others against it, and you can even vote against it, and you can even fight against it, but you have to pay for it in the meantime. Joe Biden, give me a break. Honestly, you're so disgusting with this kind of position. You and your entire party platform, do away with the Hyde Amendment. You know, people hear this do away with the Hyde Amendment. Most people don't know what that means. Well, I'm telling you what it means very clearly. That you and I would be paying for somebody else to kill their child. And they all believe this. The whole Democrat Party is based on this. This is what they're saying. But I'm not making this up. Go read the Democrat Party platform. Go listen to Joe Biden. How can our fellow citizens even think for a minute to pay any attention to the whole crowd of them? You got to reject the party. You don't even have to waste time trying to compare one to the other, to the third, to the fourth, to the 24th. Enough of this. Enough of this. And as one of our good viewers is reminding us right now, this guy even claims to be a Catholic. Okay, let's take a look at this video. This is there was a woman who, she should be ashamed of herself too, that asked him what his position was about the Hyde Amendment, and now we know what he thinks. And you know, he might try to back off from this now as he sees the backlash that's going to come. But you know, never put anything beyond these people. But let's watch and see what this character Joe Biden has to say.
I'm an ACLU Rights for All voter, and I have one quick question for you, and that is, will you commit to abolishing the Hyde Amendment, which hurts poor women and
yes,
women of color?
Yes, and by the way, ACLU member, I got a near perfect voting record my entire career.
I heard you did, but I'm glad you just said you would commit to abolishing the Hyde Amendment.
Right now, it has to be. It can't stay.
Thank you.
How are you, man?
Yeah, it can't stay. It can't stay. I'll tell you what else can't stay. Joe Biden and all his cast of characters over there, trying to think that they can get a single vote when they're A, standing for the killing of babies, and B, telling us we have to pay for it. I don't know about you. I of course I do know about lots of you. Find that offensive, so offensive. We have to make our views clearly known and tell your friends. Now some of you might have friends. Some of you do have friends, obviously, so do I, that identify themselves as Democrats. Okay. And they might be looking at all these people that now are running for president, trying to decide who might I vote for in the primaries. Would you please point this out to them? Tell people on social media, point out, share that video, share this video. Show them what Joe Biden just said. Away with the Hyde Amendment. It can't stay. It can't stay. In other words, yeah, if you're against abortion, don't have one, but you got to pay for it. It's outrageous. Governor Steve Bullock of Montana. Hey, Governor, I hope you're listening. What's the matter with you? What is the matter with you? You're the governor of a state, and you don't even know when human life begins? Friends, you know, this isn't funny. We've got people who are trying to govern, they're trying to make us think that they're worthy of governing an entire state or an entire nation. This guy now wants to try to do both because he's the governor of Montana and he wants to now be also the president of the United States. And he can't recognize his right hand from his left because he doesn't know what an 8th grade biology student knows. That human life begins at the beginning. It begins at the fertilization when a unique human being starts to exist. But no. This is not a decision he can make. He embraces this ridiculous argument. It doesn't even merit the name argument, because it's not based on anything reasonable, that the answer to the whole abortion question is, well, the Supreme Court decided that, it's not up to me to decide. It's not up to you to decide who lives and who dies. How in the world is it up to the Supreme Court to decide that? You see, what you're going to see, I'm going to show you a clip from this guy too. What you're going to see is a classic dodge that these politicians make. And what it is to absolve themselves of responsibility because the court decided already. No. You don't get to sit out the most fundamental moral issue of our day simply because the court made a decision. You don't get to pass on what is the most important question for any public official, and that is, will I serve the public or will I kill the public? You don't get to pass on whether or not it's okay for a government to authorize the killing of a baby. Now, if people don't want to be guilty of saying that the government is killing babies, well, again, it's a convenient dodge to just write off the babies and say they're not babies at all, they're not human lives at all. Now, children are being killed in the womb by abortion in this country throughout pregnancy and even after being born alive. So the question of viability, when a baby can survive outside the womb, isn't even at issue here in terms of the commitment that every public official needs to have to protect those babies, because they're being killed before and after viability. And furthermore, the court said it was okay to kill them both before and after viability. We have the telephone calls that you can listen to at exposeabortion.net. Exposeabortion.net, we made calls into abortion facilities around the country. Mothers saying that they were 32 weeks pregnant, carrying a healthy baby, and that they were healthy, and the abortion facility said, come on in a few days and we'll give you the abortion for $25,000. So this is happening well beyond viability. Now, viability is a moving target. As science and medical science gets better, the age of viability gets lower. Not only that, but it changes geographically. Viability in the United States of America, with our medical systems, is not viability in Bangladesh or in the middle of an African desert. We've had doctors here on this program who have explained to us how babies are surviving more and more at 23 weeks, 22 weeks, even 21 weeks. Viability is changing fast, changing constantly, getting younger and earlier. Now, well before viability, in fact, when the baby is just 8 weeks old, you've got all the major bodily systems and organs in place already. They're going to continue to grow and develop, but they're there. They're there. You see the hands at 6 weeks and even earlier. You see the baby is a baby. What is that if it's not life? Growing, moving, having its own unique genetic makeup, having a beating heart that starts beating at 21 days, having a brain that you can measure the brain waves at 6 weeks. Movement, growth, unique identity. absorbing nutrients, expelling waste. That's not life. 8th grade student, biology class. When does a human life begin? Correct answer, fertilization. But no, we have the governor of the state of Montana saying stupid things, along with all his Democrat comrades in that Democrat party, in that Democrat contingent of men and women running for president, when they can't even answer the most fundamental moral question that we have. I go back to my original question, my friends. How can any American spend 1 minute even considering voting for these people, voting for this party? How can we spend a minute even consider? Why bother looking at the differences between these clowns? And that's an insult to clowns who can't even stand up and say, we are going to protect babies. I don't get it. Listen to this now. I'm going to show you a video clip of the governor of Montana, again, who's thrown his hat into the presidential race, Governor Steve Bullock. Doesn't even know when a human life begins. Watch this.
Alabama passed the most restrictive abortion law in a generation with the goal of reversing Roe v. Wade. I know you don't support the law, but it has reignited this debate over abortion and abortion rights in this country. I wanted to ask you just more philosophically, some lawmakers believe life begins at conception, others at a heartbeat, others at implantation, others at viability outside the womb. When do you think life begins?
Well, I think that ultimately the Supreme Court settled this 45 years ago, and it's not my decision to be making the decision that a woman needs to make in consultation with her doctor and her family and her faith if she so chooses.
I get that that's your political position, but more philosophically, when do you think life begins? When you think about the process? Do you think it's fetal viability, implantation? I mean, this is just a discussion people have.
Sure, I would say that life begins at viability. But either way, it's not up to people like me to be making these decisions. And I think that's the greater point. And it's not what I think, it's that what does an individual woman need to do with her body and with her health care? And those aren't decisions that I should be making.
Stop giving us this crap. Stop it. Oh, it's not up to me to decide. What the heck is wrong with you? It's not up to me to decide that criminal is going to kill somebody in the street. Oh, it's not up to me to decide that person is going to rob a bank. Oh, it's not up to me to impose my morality on this family member who's going to kill another family member. Oh, it's not up to me to decide if someone wants to choose to rape somebody else. Oh, it's not up to me to decide that a husband is going to beat his wife. Oh, it's not up to me to decide that a woman is going to take her kids in her car and drown them in a lake. Oh, it's not up to me to decide that one student is going to shoot another student or 10 students in their school. Oh, it's not up to me to decide these things. Stop giving us this cowardly nonsense. When a child is about to be killed, yes, it is up to you to stand up and say no. When someone's rights are going to be trampled underfoot, yes, it is up to you, and it is up to lawmakers, and it is up to public servants to serve the public, for goodness sake. Governor.
But you know what? When you and I take up this call and we talk about abortion, if we speak about it in church, we're told we're too